Hey, what's going on everybody? This is RobWillis.info here, and in this video I want to talk about how to deploy the Beats agents on remote servers. If you watched my last video, you'll see that I talked about how to set up Elasticsearch, Logstash, and Kibana on Windows Server 2012 R2, and it works great and everything, but at that point we only had the local server sending information back to our ELK stack, and that's kind of useless when we have it in that situation. So today I'm going to tell you how to set up the Beats agents on remote servers so we can start sending that data back to our Logstash server so it can be indexed and searched. Alright, so what we have here is the ELK Stack server from the previous video, and it still has the exact same configuration, and you see that I have it installed to see ELK Stack. And let's go ahead into our Logstash directory here, and we want to look at our Logstash configuration file. And you'll notice that when I open it up here that the thing we want to note is the port. You'll see that it's on 5044. And the reason why we need to know that is when we deploy the Beats agents on the remote servers, we need to let them know that that's the port they need to send their data to. So before we install the Beats agents on the remote server, there's one other thing we have to do on our ELK Stack server here, and that's we have to install the Logstash input Beats, the plugin for Logstash. So we use this command here, and you'll see that it's just going to point to our C ELK Stack, the Logstash bin directory, and it calls the Logstash plugin. And I'm just going to copy the command and paste it into PowerShell here and go ahead and run it. And we're going to go ahead and click run to run the script, and it's going to go ahead and install the plugin. Alright, so that's really the only configuration changes we needed to make on our ELK Stack server, and we can go ahead and start setting up the client machines now. Alright, so now we're on a completely different server. I'm just going to call this one Client 01, but it's another server 2012 R2 VM. And to get started, we're going to need to head over to elastic.co and go ahead and download and install the Beats agents. So in this case, I'm going to use the PacketBeat, FileBeat, TopBeat, and WinLogBeat agents. Once you've gone ahead and downloaded the packages, you'll have to uncompress them, and I would recommend uncompressing them all into a common directory. Like you'll see here, I've unzipped them all to C Beats, and then they each have their own directory. And each one of those directories will have a PowerShell script to install and uninstall the service, as well as some other stuff for the Beats agent. And then I also have a little install script that I made here in WinPCAP because that's needed for PacketBeat. Alright, so on the left hand side you see my install script here, and I wouldn't even really call this a script, but it's really just a bunch of one-liners with a pause function in there. But each one of the Beats agents will have an install service name script within the directory, and that's all I'm doing here. So it's exactly the same if you ran these individually to command line manually. I'm just doing this so it can be quick and easy for the video. But I call them all, and then I call services.msc so I can start the services. And let's go ahead and open up a PowerShell window and run the install script. And this script runs just like any other PowerShell script. But we see that it installs the first two Beats agents and then launches WinPCAP, so we can go ahead and install that for the PacketBeat agent because you need it before you'll start that service. So I'm just going to follow the defaults and click finish, and then we can go ahead and install PacketBeat along with the WinLogBeat, and that's it. We've installed all of our Beats agents, and let's go ahead and see if the services start. Each one of the services should just be named whatever the agent is, so in this case FileBeat. And you just right click and go ahead and start the service like any other service. And we're going to do the same thing for the rest of the services. So we've got TopBeat, PacketBeat, and WinLogBeat to start as well. And I'm just going to go ahead and speed through that real quick here. Alright, so that's the last service there. And there's one other thing that I need to mention here, and that's that each one of the Beats agents will have its own configuration file, and it's going to be in the YML or YAML configuration format. And you'll see I open them up here in Notepad, but for the FileBeat one, it's also worth noting too, you have to point FileBeat towards a text file or a log file, and you'll see here that I'm pointing to the default IIS log files. And then you can also specify the input type, and here it's just log, and that will change how it shows up in Logstash and how you can sort it and whatnot. Alright, so this part here is critical. This is where we're going to tell our Beats agent where to send its data to, and which will be our ELK Stack server. So you'll need to uncomment the Logstash : and the host portion by deleting the # in front of it. But uncomment both of those, and then go ahead and set the IP address and ports accordingly. Like I showed in the very beginning of the video, in this case it's going to be 5044 for our Logstash server. But each one of the Beats agents will have its own configuration file, so you'll have to set this on each one of those. But make sure you uncomment the Logstash : and the host field, and then set the IP address and port accordingly. If you've made the configuration changes after you started the Beats agents, you'll probably have to restart them. But that's it for our client server. We can go ahead and check our ELK Stack now and see if it's indexing the data. Alright, so I'm back on my ELK Stack server here, and I'm going to go ahead and pull up Kibana via the web browser. And I'm just going to run a search for everything in the last 15 minutes. And then on the left hand side and under fields, I'm going to click beat host name, and we see our client 01 VM is showing up there. So it means that our ELK Stack is successfully receiving data from that client. And you see by clicking the little plus sign magnifying glass that we can narrow down our search to only show results from this client. And then on the top left hand side, you can change between the various Beats agents as well. So now if we want to repeat this process on other remote client servers, all we have to do is take our Beats agents directory here, and you could literally copy and paste it onto those servers, run the PowerShell install scripts, and then they'll start reporting back. And the configuration file is already set, and if you're reporting back to the same ELK Stack server, you don't have to make any changes there. And that's it. You can just deploy that folder to the other clients, run a PowerShell script to install the agents on each machine, make sure the services are started, and you'll see data start flowing back to your server. And that's going to wrap up this video. I really hope you guys enjoyed this one. I know I did. And thanks for watching.